Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to today's live session. I'm so excited to have you here for the incredible conversation that we are going to have today about how to finally break free from the cycles of struggle that are holding you back, how to finally create the life you want, not just because it's something that you want to do, but because it's a life that excites you, that you dream of. It's a life that is ultimately, truly the best one for you. And this question came up for me because in my coaching sessions and in other places, I've been noticing one thing. There are two kinds of people who come into the coaching, and in that coaching, then either they get results very fast or they struggle a bit to get the results that they want. And I was reflecting and I was thinking while analyzing both the sides that what is it really that makes the difference? Why is it that some people are able to succeed very fast, some people are able to succeed like this, and yet there are others who, despite knowing everything, despite having a lot of knowledge, are still stuck and are still not able to make the progress the way they want at the speed they want. And as I analyzed both of these sides, I thought about all the aspects, the emotions that they're going through, the kind of thought having, the kind of actions that they're taking in their everyday lives. And through that, I asked myself only one question: what's the difference and what's the common thread? And the difference that I found out between people who got fast results and the people who kept struggling over and over again in their lives for whatever reason it may be, well, that difference was only of one thing. But before I tell you the difference, I want to show you how similar both sides can really look and why seeing the struggle itself can be such a hard thing for a lot of us, because even though we are progressing, even though we are moving forward, it doesn't look like struggle at that time. It truly looks like progress. So here's the thing: the people who got results very fast versus the people who struggled, both of them were very hardworking. Both of them had the same willingness to change. Both of them had the same commitment to their growth, to their life, to everything that they wanted to build for themselves. And when we think about success, when we think about growth, when we think about achievement, these are the qualities that come up for us, right? Discipline, hard work, management, resilience, consistency. Well, guess what? The people who succeeded and the people who, I wouldn't say failed, but the people who took a bit more time, well, they had all the same qualities. So I figured this out, that hard work is not the differentiator. And if you think about it, even discipline, consistency, these are all great traits, but they are not the deciding factor or the differentiating factor that makes you successful. The real factor is something completely different. And it all comes down to just one simple word. Would you like to know what that word is? I know you've heard of it before. I know you have idea of what it means, but today I want to help you understand it from a very different lens. And that's the deciding factor between people who get results very fast in their lives and people who keep struggling over and over again. And the difference is the levels of their resistance. Now, there's a simple way to understand this concept. So I have this book here with me again. Simple examples that I like to take because I'm surrounded by books only. And on the other hand, let's say here I have another mobile phone that I use. Now the book cover is here. Okay. It's a pretty smooth surface. The screen of the mobile is also a pretty smooth surface. Now I'll take this and I put it on the book, and you can see it's like gliding very easily, it's gliding very well. Now I'm going to take the other side instead. This is the back side, the rough side. It's a pretty old cover that I have here. And now if I try to do it, I have to apply a bit more force. I have to apply a bit more effort to get the very same result back and to get this moving. Now, it's not that hard, it's not that difficult, but I hope you get the point that I'm trying to make with this. When it's on the cover side, no, when it's on the screen side, at that time, the resistance levels are lower. In simple physics terms, the friction levels are lower. And because those are lower, it glides more smoothly. But when it's on the other side, that's the back side, in that moment, the problem that happens is That surface is rough. That surface is not very clear. That surface is not smooth like the screen. And as a result of that, it takes a lot more force and a lot more effort to create the same result that came about very easily when it was facing the screen rather than the backside of the phone. Now, in our lives, friction and resistance work in the same way. It's not physical resistance, it's not literally rubbing against something, but the resistance that we experience comes in from our thoughts, from our feelings, from our beliefs, from our actions, from our proofs, from our stories, from the ideas we hold on to inside our heads. And the more resistant we are to change, and the more adamant we are on these false ideas in our lives, the more the struggle keeps on going. Now, if rather than just a rougher surface like the back plastic cover that's on a phone, what if it was a really coarse rock? Now, if I'm taking that coarse rock and I'm using it and I'm rubbing it on the book cover, it's gonna create the movement, it's gonna move around, but it's gonna scratch the book cover entirely, maybe even tear it apart. And that is why I'm so wary of giving generic advice out there just like this. Because think about it, that generic advice is going to work for somebody whose resistance levels are lower and who's clear on this one fact that, you know what, I'm willing and open to seeing new ways of life. I'm willing and open to see new perspectives. I'm willing and open to see a new way of doing things. So that person is like the screen. Now, this book is like the generic advice that you'd find anywhere on the internet. Okay. Now, you take this, there's this person, this generic advice comes in, it works for that person because resistance levels are lower, the person is open and accepting to it. Now, on the other hand, if the person is a rock instead, in terms of their mindset, in terms of their approach to life, they can try out the new thing. I'm not saying they won't, but the new thing comes in their life. Their own resistances are so high that they're not able to implement it the way they want to implement it. So, the hack or the habit or the technique or the advice that's supposedly working for everyone else, for that person, it just doesn't work because they're grinding that hard rock against that advice, against that information that they've gotten. As a result, it ends up hurting them and it ends up sabotaging them. And this is why when I see videos like this coming up on the internet, follow this productivity routine and your life will be sorted. I'm like, no, it won't. That's not how things work. Because each person is different. If it were that simple, and I mean, it's very simple, but if it were that easy, like cookie cutter advice just working for everybody, then I would make that as every single video on my channel and be done with it. I would not be doing these live sessions every single day, covering one topic, one small step at a time. I wouldn't be doing the coaching sessions that I do. I wouldn't be writing the books that I'm writing or the articles that I'm writing. Well, I'm like, no, okay, this is the advice, supply it, done. People's lives are sorted. What more do I want, right? But I've seen that destroy the way people progress. I've seen that generic advice confuse the hell out of people. Like, what do I do? Somebody is saying work for 16 hours a day. Somebody else is saying no, only work for 8 hours a day. Somebody is saying follow this technique. Somebody else is saying follow another technique. The worst technique you learned was total BS. Do not listen to that. And we are filled with so much contradictory advice that if our internal resistance levels and openness to new ideas is lower because of fear, because of uncertainty, because of doubt, anything and everything, but if the resistance levels are high, any advice that comes your way is only going to end up hurting and burning you. It's not going to work out for you. So today, rather than asking the question, how do I get out of the struggle? What do I do? I'm tired of it. I don't want it anymore. Can I implore you to ask another question? I want you to ask yourself, where am I resisting life? And where am I resisting myself? And the simple way to figure that out is, what are the actions you procrastinate on even when you know you need to do them? You call them hard, you call them difficult, but the fact that you procrastinate to them is the meaning that you are resisting them. You don't want to do them. Now, not wanting to do them is fine as long as it's a genuine choice. But if there's fear or insecurity or something else that is driving those feelings, that is driving those actions, that is driving that avoidance, then the struggle is only going to continue until and unless you don't address the core resistance. And so that's why this question: what am I resisting, and where all am I resisting myself? Another place where you will find that this resistance comes up is in every single place where you get triggered, offended, or hurt. And the simple way to understand that is this beautiful example that I read of recently, that if somebody is going to the gym and they have six pack abs and they know it, you call them fat, they laugh. But if you call somebody who is already not so much in a good shape, who's conscious about their weight, who feels that I know I shouldn't be this way, and you call that person fat, oh, they get triggered very easily. And I'm not saying that you should go out there and be disrespectful to people. Please, that's not what I mean. Do not go out and do that. It's a decency to be human beings who are kind to each other. But what I'm essentially saying is the person who knows he or she is fully healthy, call them whatever they want. Do they get triggered? Do they get hurt? Do they get irritated? No, they don't. And that is why the reframe that I like is every time you get triggered, it's a confession for some truth inside you. That's it. Every time you get triggered, it is a confession of the truth inside you that you are avoiding, that you are not willing to see. And that avoidance, that rejection, that itself is your resistance to growth, your resistance to success, and your resistance to creating the life that you want. You see, advice can keep coming your way, changes can keep coming your way, new situations can keep coming your way. But if you're resistant like that rock, you will only keep struggling the moment you get in contact with them, because you will roughen up the surface and you will tear things apart. I know you don't want that outcome. I know you want your life to glide easily and effortlessly. Well, the first step, my friend, in that journey is to be able to let go of your resistances in this way. So now that you have identified where those resistances are, the simple way to break free from them is to ask yourself, is this really serving me? Is this really helping me be the person I want to be? Here, your comfort that you have with your resistance, the comfort that you have with these thoughts that are perfectly justified inside your mind, you will say, oh, yeah, it is serving me. It's protecting me. Or, that person really hurt me. So that's the reason I am this way. It's for my protection. But you will ultimately know these resistances are not serving you if you're willing to have that honest conversation with yourself. In fact, we are on the 58th live session now here on YouTube. The very first day I did it, my heart was a bit panicky. I was feeling nervous. Why? Because I was resisting the idea of doing live sessions. I was like, every single day, can I really speak something new? Turns out I can. Turns out there's a lot of things to talk about, right? But at that time, I didn't know. And that time, I was resisting the idea because I didn't want to fail. But then I asked myself, what would be the real failure? Not doing any sessions, or doing some sessions and finding out, oh, well, this doesn't work. Let me try something else again later. And I realized what I thought was protecting me from failure was leading me to sure shot failure anyways. So what's the harm in trying, right? The moment I thought that, from a lens of curiosity, my resistance went down. This has become such a fun activity that I look forward to every single day. Coming here on YouTube at 8:30 p.m., having these amazing, incredible conversations with you. Only reason that's possible is because I have lowered my resistance levels and I am more open to life. I'm more open to new experiences. You can do the same. You can create the same magic. All it requires for you to do is ask yourself these questions and be willing to let go of the resistance. You can be as hardworking as you want. You can be as disciplined as you want. You can be as consistent as you want. But if there's friction and resistance, all of that will only come back and burn you. Make it your aim to be effortless and frictionless in your life, to be able to glide over things rather than being stuck upon them, to be able to live your life resistance free. And as the result of that freedom from resistance, you become the best version of yourself. So, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for having this time with me. It really means a lot. And I hope today's conversation has given you some clear actionables that you can get cracking on so your life starts to align with your higher purpose and your perfect dreams. Thank you so much for being here, and I'll see you once again tomorrow at the same time. That is 8:30 p.m. Bye. See you soon.